Are you a creative who's struggling to get work out in the world? Well, one caution I have for you, and this is ironic, is that you have to be careful about who you listen to. So here I am, a person you don't know, maybe very well, telling you be careful who you listen to. Well, my point is listen to yourself, listen to your own voice, and ask for help lightly to get an expert to weigh in on what you're doing. Most of the time, experts have their own formula. They have their own ideas about things, and that's great when we need it. But a lot of times we're onto something maybe raw or new, and we're still playing with how we're going to fully realize our vision. An expert might spoil that. So I made the mistake early on of showing early work to some of my bandmates or different friends I have who are great musicians, great songwriters. And I would show them like a half-baked piece of music that I was working on, and they would look at me like, what is that? Like, I don't quite get what you're doing. And it's partly because it wasn't done, and they can't hear the vision that I had for it in my head. And I was just excited. I was just like, oh, wow, check this out. And then I started realizing, oh, I'm accepting their doubt and their own confusion about what I'm doing, and bringing that into my creative process. Well, that's not helpful. So one thing I talk about in the blog post is minding your drafts, minding your own drafts, and keeping those carefully at bay for so how you might use those drafts. You don't want to just show your drafts to everybody. So I think rough drafts are great, and they're a really precious part of the creative process. I love them. I love the little voice memos that I make as a songwriter, or scraps of paper. I'll throw down an idea for like a future book or a future article, but they're not really meant for everybody. They're just meant for me. So we want to be careful and don't make the mistake I've made a few times of sharing stuff too early. Now, I want to encourage you, don't, by all means, keep sharing your work. It's just be careful of sharing it with experts and looking for their reaction. So kind of gets me to another topic that I like to talk about in creativity, and that's being unattached. So one thing I also work very hard on is to actually be unattached to my work. So even this video, like I'm in my head, I'm sort of monitoring my speech and thinking about what I'm saying, trying to watch out for saying too many uhs or ahs or that, all the filler words, right? But at the same time, I have to be real with where I'm at today and to let things flow. So it's not it's not a final product until it's fully edited and put out in the world. But I'm also not going to be too precious about it, and in the end, I'm going to let you decide if you like this video. And I guess the algorithms have a way of deciding as well. So not being precious with art, letting it get out there, but at the same time, making sure you've realized your vision or part of your vision or enough of your vision that people can take something from it that you feel is right. So it's kind of a mixed message, right? It's like, who do we listen to when we're creating art? So I think it starts out, listen to yourself. Listen, for me, it's the goosebumps. It's, do I feel the excitement by what I'm doing? Has time stopped ticking and I can't even, an hour passes by in a second? Those are great moments, right? I know I'm in it. Get expert help when you need it, like you're trying to solve a problem. Maybe for a music thing, I might get help asking somebody about a certain type of production style, or maybe the sound of the recording. I have a mastering engineer friend who helps me make sure that there's a final polish layer on the things I release out in the world to just make sure they play well on all the other stereo systems. And that's fine. That's getting an expert help for a piece of knowledge or skill that I don't have. But when it comes to the actual creation, it's like leaning into what I think is really powerful. And then I'd say maybe a third thing is some folks out there do have an editor or a collaborator or a bandmate or somebody that's involved in a creative process. Just make sure that you know when you're ready to share your work with them. So you're not giving them too early of a draft, if that makes sense. So those are a few ideas on working with your own creative self and how experts may or may not factor into what you're doing. I hope that's helpful. It was really insightful to me as I went through this journey, and I'm passing it along in hopes that this is helpful to you. And you think, maybe I shouldn't share, or maybe this is the right time to share. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you in a future video, and love to hear your comments and thoughts about your creative process and your creative life.